Hello, happy crocheters. This is Lindsay from windingroadcrochet.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make this really cool needle book for your yarn needles and your stitch markers. For this project, you're going to need about 25 yards of 2 different colors in a medium weight yarn. I'm using cotton, but acrylic would work as well. You're going to need a size G or 4mm crochet hook, yarn needle, scissors, a 5/8 inch button, and sewing needle and thread. To get started, we are going to make a slip knot and insert our hook. For the cover of the book, we are going to chain 27. Once you have a chain of 27, we are going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook and every chain across. You'll have a total of 26 single crochets. I'm going to work in the back bumps of the chain because I like the finished look of this, but if that is hard for you, feel free to work into the chain any way that you like. When you reach the end of row 2, we are going to chain 1 and turn our work. We are going to single crochet in every stitch across. We're going to continue working single crochet rows until we have a total of 8 rows worked. Turn 1, single crochet across for row 3, and continue making single crochet rows until we have 8 total rows. At the end of row 8, we are going to extend our row. We are going to start with a chain of 6, and then we are going to single crochet back along that chain to add 5 stitches to our row. So let's do this. We're going to start row 9 by chaining 6. We're going to turn our work and single crochet into the second chain from the hook and each chain across. There should be 5 single crochets worked into the chain. Once again, I'm working into the back loops, but that is completely up to you. Once you have your 5 single crochets worked, then we will just single crochet across the rest of the row. When you reach the end of row 9, we'll have that new little flap on the edge. We're going to chain 1 and turn our work. We're going to start by working single crochets into the first 28 stitches, and then we are going to create a buttonhole. To create a buttonhole, we are going to chain 2 and then skip 2 stitches and single crochet into the last stitch. So we're going to chain 1 and 2, skip 2 stitches and single crochet into the last stitch. And that is the end of row 10 with our little buttonhole. For row 11, we're going to chain 1 and turn. We will work a single crochet into the first stitch, 2 single crochets into the chain 2 space, and then single crochet across the rest of the row. So here we go, a single crochet into the very first stitch, 2 single crochets into our chain 2 space to create our buttonhole, and then simply single crochet all the way across. When we reach the end of row 11, we're going to chain 1 and turn. For row 12, we are no longer working on that little flap, so we're simply going to single crochet into the first 26 stitches, and then we will turn, leaving 5 stitches left unworked. So here is the end of row 12, chain 1 and turn. Row 13 through 19, all we're going to do is work rows of single crochet. So each row you're going to chain 1 and turn and single crochet 26 times. Once you have 19 rows, the cover of your booklet is complete. You just need to fasten off, yarn over and pull the yarn in through the last loop on your hook, and then you can weave in your ends for the cover. And if you like, you can also lightly wet this cover, mist it with water, and weigh it down to make it more flat, but that's completely up to you. These little booklets are perfect for putting into every single one of your crochet project bags. And they take up so little time to make and so little yarn to make. So there is our finished cover. Now it is time for us to make our inside leaflet. This leaflet is made with a few chain spaces so that we have spaces to put our stitch markers in. To get started, we're going to make a slip knot, and this time we're going to chain 23. Once you have a chain of 23, we are going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook and every chain across for a total of 22 stitches. When you reach the end of row 1, we're simply going to chain 1 and turn our work and single crochet in every stitch across. For row 3, we are going to chain 1 and turn, and we are going to single crochet into the first 14 stitches, and then we will begin making the first spot for our stitch markers. Once you have your 14 single crochets worked, we are going to chain 2 and skip 2 stitches. Then we will work single crochets into the next 2 stitches, then chain 2 again, skip 2 more stitches, and work a single crochet into the last 2 stitches. So again, we are going to chain 2, 1 and 2. We're going to skip 2 stitches and single crochet in the next stitch, single crochet in the following stitch, work 2 more chains, skip 2 stitches, and single crochet in the last 2 stitches. And that completes row 3. We're going to chain 1 and turn to work row 4. We're going to start row 4 by working a single crochet into the first 2 stitches. Then we will chain 2 and skip the chain space, and then single crochet in the next 2 stitches, chain 2, skip the chain space, and then single crochet across the rest of the row. So let's do this. We're going to single crochet into the first 2 stitches. We're going to chain 2, skip the chain space, and single crochet into the next 2 stitches. Chain 2 again, skip the chain space, and single crochet in every stitch across. For row 5, we are going to chain 1 and turn our work. We're going to single crochet into the first 14 stitches. When we reach the chain 2 space, we're going to work 2 single crochets into that chain 2 space. Then we'll work a single crochet into the next 2 stitches. And then 2 single crochets into the next chain space, and a single crochet into the last 2 stitches. And that is the end of row 5. We're going to chain 1 and turn, and row 6 we're simply going to single crochet in every stitch across. To continue working the page, all you're going to need to do is repeat rows 3 through 6 2 more times. That will give us a total of 6 spaces to hang our stitch marker. If you need to watch rows 3 through 6 again, I'll put a timestamp here, but all you're going to do is repeat rows 3 through 6 twice more to create the height that we need and all the little stitch marker spots. So here I have repeated rows 3 through 6 twice more, and I've worked 1 additional row of straight single crochets across the top, and that finishes our inside page. So we're just going to fasten off, yarn over, and pull the last yarn end through our last loop, and we're done with the inside page. I'm going to weave in my yarn ends and assemble this book. To assemble, you're going to place your inside page in the center of the book cover, and then we're going to use yarn and your yarn needle to sew the very center of that page in place. Just going to fold it in half and try to make sure that I'm nice and centered. But if you're a little off, which I have been, it really doesn't make it look that bad. So now I am just going to make nice big stitches, working a straight stitch or a running stitch up the middle of the page. And then when you reach the top of the page, we're just going to come straight back down through the same holes that we used going up to the top of the page. And it'll give us a nice clean line in the center. You can also add additional pages if you like. You also don't have to use this for stitch markers. I'm just going to knot it at the end, and I'm being lazy, so I'm just going to clip my end instead of weaving them in. Next, we are going to grab our button and sew that in place. Before you sew your button, make sure to push it through the buttonhole to make sure that it is the right size. I noticed when working with my button that my yarn needle did not work, so I had to switch to sewing thread and a sewing needle. To place your button, fold your cover in half and then fold the flap over the cover to determine where you need to place your button. Then using yarn needle and thread, we are just going to sew that button in place. When you pull through the first time, make sure to leave about 2 or 3 inches, as we will use that to knot with our other thread end at the end of sewing our button. Then you're just going to sew your button in place, working in an X pattern or whatever kind of pattern you need to work in if you have a different style of button. And when you're done, you are going to knot your 2 thread ends in the back. Flip your thread and your little booklet is done. Of course, this doesn't have to be the very end of it. You could embroider an initial on this or embroider flowers, and I do have video tutorials showing how to embroider flowers on crochet, so I will leave a link at those at the end. But there you have it, these cute little needle booklets for your needles and your stitch markers. They are super handy and great to throw into any project bag. They also make an excellent gift for any of your crafter friends. I hope you enjoyed the pattern, and until next time, happy crocheting!